Well, let's move on to a couple more questions. Hope you're enjoying our session here today with Liliana. Let's talk about income and the commercial side of things, which is one of your 3 C's. Is it?
Yeah, commercial.
It was. Commercial's the third one. Hang on a minute. I had a moment. So obviously fundraising, the income generation component is a critical part for a lot of people with why that they would use events as a tool. Can you talk a bit about the importance of discussing the expected commercial return right from the start, and maybe some examples around that of where organisations have and been able to, reach those outcomes?
It's absolutely probably the number one question I generally ask when I'm working or talking to people about an event, and then when we're engaged. I'll always say, what do we need to raise? What have you done traditionally? If it's a new event, we work with them to say, what do you feel you're going to raise? And we break down the event. The commercial aspect is number one. And sometimes it's not just dollars. It's about building a plan to create relationships that build like long-term investment into the organisation. So that commercial return has to be clearly understood. So if it's financial and it's fundraising, what does that look like? And what are the tactics to make that dollar raise? If it's around building a strategy so that again, I call it 18 months, not 3 years or 5 years. So 18-month spurts that you build one sort of program to get then after 18 months to the next. What does that look like and what are you building towards? So if it's a capital campaign, who are you integrating with? What does that mean? If it's an organisation like Women's Health Victoria, who I said are doing the 25th anniversary, they have amazing relationships in the sector, but how do we build that with outside the sector? So we're literally doing a campaign. You're either on the bus or you're off the bus.
Right.
And that works for us because in the language, and if you're a leader, most of you would know that book, it's From Good to Great. It's about leadership and being on the bus or off the bus. And if you're an advocate or an ambassador. So looking at strategies of how you engage with your people to get the financial return. And it has to be a financial return. To me, you're not doing an event to spend all this time and money and effort. And look, I get told all the time I hate events from people who work in not-for-profits. I don't know how you do it. I hate it. We're the crazy people that love it because I see there's a bigger purpose. And the bigger purpose is it changes people's lives. Like you make relationships that raises millions and millions of dollars that otherwise could not exist. So let's understand that C. And when you do a workshop or when we're talking about it, it's interesting when you do the clarity, the charity, the commercial, and you start to look at all the different aspects, you can then gauge this sector needs this event and that will raise this amount of money. Okay, what about this sector, the community, the corporate, the government, the philanthropist? Like, depends what you are and what you're building. When I did it for the financial firms, one of their biggest market is actually other accountants, because that's a big referral base. So what are you doing to those referrers or those people that bring in business to you, and how are you two working together in partnership and collaboration? So it's just trying to open that way of thinking.
And in terms of having those discussions, like how far up an organisation do you need to be having and setting those expectations?
Look, I won't lie, I love it when the CEOs in the organisation, in the workshops, for example, or those strategic discussions. We held one recently for the Essendon Long Walk Foundation, and we have been doing their events for the last few years. That's where Michael Long, next year's their 15th anniversary, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
15 years.
Wow. Where Michael Long just basically took it upon himself to walk from Melbourne to Canberra to go and put the Indigenous community issues
on the map.
So, and he's this great saying, like, we're all a team when we play football and we all support each other, but off the ground, are we? And how do we put Indigenous community in that conversation? So when we did that workshop, it was great because we had Leanne, who runs the foundation, who's a gun, plus some board members, a couple of key staff members. And I try and get some of the people who love the organisation versus some of the people on the board, volunteers or key stakeholders. And I think it just allows for a really healthy conversation. And then you usually get to a point where you're all on the next page. So we agree to something and then say, okay, so what does that look like? And what does success mean? If you don't define what success means as an organisation, then you can't look at those 3 C's. And I do that first usually. So yeah.